Hey everyone, just out for a walk right now. Getting a little bit of rain here. Which was funny because I was debating on like, hey, I need to do a walking and talking video, and I was gonna do that today after I got done with some of my sessions. And I was at my place and I heard the rain had started, and so I was like, well, I could do it tomorrow. I could go tomorrow. Um, but I realized I actually really like walking in the rain. Even since I was a little kid, I've always loved walking in the rain. Something super calming about it. So I was like, this is probably the time to do the video. Um, I wanted to share kind of what was on my mind lately. So I'm 43, coming up on 44 right now, and kind of thinking about like the gifts that midlife gives you that probably don't feel like gifts. Um, and what that actually means, like midlife, I think is different for everyone. We've kind of always heard the term like midlife crisis, like you're in a crisis, right? I don't know if I'd call it a crisis. I think it can feel like a crisis. And I guess relating that back to my experience of midlife, I've had some events that probably could feel crisis-y. Um, Midlife for me has looked like a divorce. My father passed away about a year ago from liver cancer. Um, Feeling like myself or what I thought of myself was kind of crumbling. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, kind of is a crisis. Kind of feels like that. Um, I've definitely shifted my thinking on this though, and this is where I feel like a lot of our opportunities are. Is I now view that as like not a crisis, so to speak. As cheesy as it might sound, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn, an invitation to connect with who you really are, who you were really meant to be, who you were placed on the earth to be, which, in my opinion, at least in my experience, is not really something that you can land on in most situations for most people until they probably do hit around midlife. And when I say midlife, I think let's just say 40 is midlife. It's starting to, everyone's going to ebb and flow a little. So maybe yours might start around your mid 30s, which I feel like that's where mine could have started. My growth probably didn't happen until realistically my divorce happened, which was a few years back. It's been about 2 or 3 years since that all started. Awful situation to go through, but man, that's led to a lot of growth by my choosing, right? Like this easily could have been just a crappy situation and that's the end of it. Suffering with no purpose. Where I really decided to look at my role in the end of my marriage and the struggles within that relationship and hey, where did that come from? Um, where I'm going with that is when we think of midlife, an awakening happening is success. What does success mean? I think a lot of us through our teens, 20s, and 30s would give the stereotypical response of success as being money, financial success, getting into a career, starting a family. Well, then what we all land on in midlife is what happens when you get all that, or you have those things, and you are really empty still. You're really unhappy. Uh-oh. If I'm lucky, that means there's another 40 years of this. So this is starting to feel really empty. This is starting to feel something's wrong. I did all the things. Why am I not feeling what I should be feeling? And my first thought with that is, well, did we ever stop to ask about what it is we should be feeling at this point? Because I think we all can give the answer of happy. I should be happy. Okay. Have I ever stopped to define what is happy? What does happy mean? If you were to take 20 different people and ask them define happiness, you'd probably get 20 different answers. So what does that mean? Well, midlife to me is a perfect point to stop and pause and say, I've got 35 years. I've got 40 years, 45 years, 50 years of data to reflect on and go over. Why don't I pause, look at this data and say, from that data, how would I define happiness at this point? What's made me happy? What is not? What are the lessons I've learned? How can I take my experiences, kind of rinse them off a little, look at them, warts and all? What matters to me? What important lessons have I learned here? And that's where I think midlife is such a valuable tool. Is it's a time to pause, kind of like halftime for sports people. This is like a halftime. Hey, what's working? What's not working? How do I discard the things that aren't working? How do I discard the old ways of thinking and implement what I want to implement now? Like, not what society thinks I should, not what my family thinks I should, not what a church or religion thinks I should, not what a certain group of people, a political party thinks I should. What do I want? What do I want here? What's important to me here? That's where I think midlife has, for me, offered a lot of gifts when I was talking about going through a divorce and then choosing to take accountability there rather than just blame my ex-wife, rather than blame her. Well, sure, there might be things on her end. It's a two-way street. If I'm interested in growth, though, if I focus on her side of things, I'm losing the value. I'm losing the gift that's being offered by that situation. So choosing to say, hey, in what ways did my past unhealed, my own unhealthy decisions, which there was a lot of them, unfortunately, there was a lot of them. I caused a lot of hurt in my marriage. And I can acknowledge that there's multiple ways to look at that, right? There's ways that I was unhealed, and in some ways I didn't even know I was unhealed, coming out at other people, some of that consciously, some of it not. And it's a little windy, so I apologize if the wind gets a little annoying. I've got they call it I think a dead cat or a dead mouse, which is kind of morbid, but I got my dead mouse, I guess, hopefully helping with the wind. I've learned that taking accountability from my side, initially painful. Here comes a sprinkler I gotta go around. It's just kind of fun, even though I hope the wind's not ruining it. Up front, taking accountability for my stuff was hard. Completely offered me a chance to own my stuff, to make amends with my ex, apologize for the things I'd done, but also for myself, a chance to understand what I'd done and why. So there's a lot of grace with yourself is super important. I don't want to beat myself up for what I did, right? Like, that's not going to help me. Recognizing, I really like the saying, I used to hate this saying, I've grown to like it, that people do the best that they can with the tools they have at the time. I always internalize that as, that's just an excuse to be a jerk. That's just an excuse to be an asshole to people. And you can use it that way. However, I think with what I knew in my marriage, even though I actively was hurting people, hurting my ex, and I knew that was wrong, right? Like, I definitely didn't know at the time why I was doing that. Like, why is harmful behavior a go-to for me? Even towards myself, harming myself, I tend to forget about that in my I don't like the word journey. I hate the word journey. I don't know why. We'll call it my adventure, which is just the same thing, but me feeling better about not using the word journey. In my path, my journey, my adventure to healing, really wanted to avoid that, because my trauma taught me my emotions didn't matter, my feelings didn't matter, and they do. And if they don't, that will mean I treat other people like their feelings and their emotions don't matter, which is not me. So realizing success, going back to what I was saying about how do we define success, how do we define happiness, I don't even think I got the chance to even consider what that meant until midlife, until experiencing the loss of a marriage, the loss of my father, and the build up to that, him getting diagnosed with cancer, and me having a very close, loving, and hard relationship with my father. I experienced a lot of trauma due to him, which I recognize as generational trauma that he went through himself. Those doors just didn't unlock until midlife. They just didn't. I wasn't in the place to learn from that, when my marriage started in my mid-30s. Unfortunately, just a total blind spot. So I think midlife is the point where we get to decide, what do we want? I've never paused and thought about, what is it that I want? What do I want? How do I define happiness? How do I define success? And I feel like midlife is the time that pops up that says, hey, I'm going to really put some pressure on you by how I make you feel, which is horrible and crappy, to get you to wake up, to take an inventory of your life, inventory of yourself, and decide what you want to be. Not what you thought you were supposed to be, not what society told you that you were supposed to be. What do you want? What do you want now? For myself, I've fallen into the role of where I was close already. Why I became a therapist is I like helping people. I like relating to people. I like connecting with other people. I also have a natural tendency, due to being human in my trauma, to want to be seen, to want to be heard. This eventually stood me to where, like, hey, you need to do things like be a therapist, be in a room with someone else where you're helping them, work at a job where you're helping other therapists, you're helping your clients feel seen and heard. Starting a YouTube channel, right? How can I expand that, especially in today's age where things are very divided? The world is, I think we all feel this, the world is struggling big time. Politically, religiously, internally, individually, things are hard right now. We are living through a really hard time. I think we're living through a great time, a very unique time. With the emergence of technology, internet, AI, I think we're living in a very, very unique time that there should be an appreciation for and an acknowledgement of how hard it is. Where it's more important now than ever to figure out who you are individually and using your struggles as a catalyst for growth, as a launch pad for figuring that out. And that's what this is about. This was me landing on, I'm doing that for myself, and I've definitely found some things that have been working for me. How do I share that? How do I share it? Because that's what I'm passionate about. Now, your passion might be a totally different thing. That could be fixing old cars. That could be giving back to charity. That could be creating a charity, starting a nonprofit. It could be whatever you think it is. It could be learning how to break dance and like going viral off breakdance videos. Whatever it is that you feel like, what would make me happy? One thing I've learned in midlife, if you don't do it, you will suffer. You will suffer. You will absolutely suffer. If you don't start to find out what matters to you and pursuing what matters to you, you will suffer. The universe will consistently send you messages to make you feel really uncomfortable. And this could be anxiety, it could be depression, not being able to sleep, being resentful, could be this feeling of just like we were talking about with success. Like, I've done all the things, it's not feeling right. It's because you have not found your purpose and you are not doing what's right for you. You're not doing what honors why you were placed on this earth. You've got to find that. And I adopt the mentality of that can change too. Like, what I would have thought my purpose was at 20 is probably very different from 43, and it will probably be different at 53 and 63. that's the important part, is what honors me right now. So if you're listening to this and you're in midlife as well, you're dealing with that as well, pause right now, like take an inventory. And that starts with, before I can do an inventory, why am I unhappy? Why do I feel unhappy right now? You sit down and write this down. What are the things in my life that are making me unhappy, and why? Why is that making me unhappy, and what would? And before you can really figure out what makes you happy, define what happy means for you. What does that mean? How do you define happy? So when you can sit down and you can figure that out, that's kind of the starting point of your destination. Like if you get on Google or Apple Maps, it's going to have you pick a starting point, right? That's your starting point. If I don't know what happy is, my compass is broken. My navigation is broken. I've got to figure out what happy means for me. So part of what I would share, as I think I'm in the process still figuring that out. What I've definitely landed on is honoring what's right for me, honoring what feels true for me, and how I show up in my interactions at work, in my relationships with myself, with my dogs, with everybody. Is it honest? I need to be honest. Communicate honestly and compassionately. And also a balance of consistently pushing myself to do new things, to try new things, to take on more, to help more, to give back more, to be more kind to myself. Finding a balance between these things, I've started learning is like, oh, okay, that's what happiness means. That's what I'm learning it means for me. And also happiness means that is dynamic, that can change over time, that evolves over time. I'm not locked into it, nor do I want to be. Life feels much more exciting when I know it's evolving and it's changing, and who knows what I'm going to be thinking in a year, in a month, in 10 minutes, and being open to that. So just wanted to share that. Message of this video would be, if you're feeling stuck, if you're having that feeling, pausing and saying, wait a minute, what do I think happy is? What do I want happy to mean? What's my definition of happy? That's the start of my roadmap. Once I figure that out, once I dial that in, now I know how to act. Now I know where to go. That's my starting point. That's my compass. That's what's going to help me. So sit down, take some time, see what you can come up with. Just realize that feeling lost is in and of itself a gift. That's something that's being given to you. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable. It's not supposed to feel good, because if it did, you wouldn't listen to it. It has to be uncomfortable. It has to bring anxiety. It has to bring depression. It has to bring those hard emotions, those challenging emotions, in order to get your attention, which that is exactly what's happening. So don't run from it. Embrace it. Listen to it. Know that you're going to be fine. Those feelings, you'll be fine. You just listen to them and you use them. All right. Thanks, guys.